Hey everybody, this is Mike Bruce with Life Starts with Food Health Coaching, and I am with a good friend of mine, Meredith. She's actually one of the very first people I met in person that has any weird love of things that I do in the whole health and biohacking and all these things. Like literally, she had to be the first, and I don't know if there's anybody I mesh with as much as her still to this day, which is cool. We met through L3 Leadership, but it wasn't through them. It was because we both followed them on Instagram and stuff. And I'm like looking through, and I found you and on Instagram, and boom, pops up L3 Leadership Stuff, which is a Christian organization in our area, run by a really great guy, Doug Smith. And I just thought like, oh, I got to reach out and ask her questions. And within a few months, we were hanging out at a coffee shop. She's pulling out like her bulletproof biohacking stuff that she gets that I get, and then like it was just off from there. Amazing double dates with my spouse and your dates that just turn into completely ignored.
The various double dates.
But it's tons of fun that we've had, and like we only lived near each other for a short while, but we had a great time while you were here. And your background is sort of, you've dealt with hormone dysregulation, disordered eating, digestive challenges, all kind of chronic inflammation, and all these things that affect the quality of our lives that so many people just deal with and live with because they don't understand the pain. But that drove you into training with several different functional medicine and holistic health practitioners clear back to 2010. And since then, you've helped in all sorts of ways. I know when I first met you, you were working for Dr. Pompa, who is just a genius in the field. And now you work for Dr. Zach Bush of, people know Restore Health or Restore, but it's recent name change is, IonBiome.
There you go.
So yeah, we don't even have like topics for today. We just are getting on and chatting.
Yes, and it's so good to see you, Mike. Finally, it's been a while since we've done a little video call since I moved out of Pittsburgh, and this is so fun. It's bright and early, and I love it. We're getting.
And you're in one of my favorite towns in this country, Charlottesville, Virginia. Just gorgeous, so much history. Oh, it's one of my faves. So
yeah, it's a great place. I've Doug living here. Yeah, it's been 2 years now, and it is a cool spot. So, happy morning, happy Friday, and
yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you live before Pittsburgh?
Oh gosh, I was in Massachusetts. I was working up at a natural healing center up there. It was a macrobiotic healing center called the Cushy Institute, and I was there for a little over 3 years.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. And you've learned a lot. You are a super intelligent woman and a very intuitive woman, which is really cool. So let's dive into something. I know our title, I think, was something about staying healthy during the Rona or something along those lines that you sent out. And I put it on there because I just liked it. And what are some of the things you've been doing? A lot of us in the health field are getting back to using nature to heal. And you have been on this bandwagon before there was a bandwagon for it. So let's hear about this.
Yeah, I think I threw out the ideas. We were just kind of riffing, like, let's talk about living your best Rona life. So that's been my aim during this pandemic. You know, it's such an extraordinary time in human history as to, so many things going on in the world, and blessings with it, challenges with it. I'm a silver linings type of gal, glass half full. So it's been a time for me to kind of zoom out and think big picture, macrocosm as well as microcosm as to like, okay, what's going on in the big picture, but then what can I do that I can control within myself and my small circle to really leverage this time for good. So yeah, as you said, like I think getting and just kind of re-experiencing nature in a new way has been extremely powerful. And I see this trend across the country too, whereas people are just kind of getting more interested in sustainable living, in foraging, in just, hiking, and just like, being out in nature has just been a really beautiful thing, because when people are just kind of inside or limited with their activities, businesses are closed. What can I do that's free and going to be fun and feeling good? Get out and move your body. So so being in nature has been just extremely, extremely powerful during this time. I've the past year or so, I've gotten into learning more about foraging and herbalism and to identify wild edibles, which has been so fun and interesting and just kind of another new layer of this for me. You know, I've been in the health and wellness industry for about 10 years now, and it was very kind of originally in that kind of this original years I was studying macrobiotics, which is a very Japanese approach to living, to healing. It has like a physical, mental, and spiritual component to how to approach life and kind of bring your body back into balance. Macrobiotics literally means big life. So I had learned a lot of those principles. I was studying up at the Cushing Institute years ago. And then I had kind of shifted into more of learning about kind of in the functional medicine realm, and it's kind of, test driven and supplements focused, and kind of just more geared towards like diet supplements, and not as much focused on engaging with the natural world, where you're literally like going out into the forest and or into nature and doing something called forest bathing, which I think is more of like kind of a Japanese idea where you're just out in nature, like no devices.
Is that Rinshin Yoku?
Yeah, I think.
How did I remember that? Holy cow.
Bringing it out. Well done, Mike. Yeah. So now kind of shifting away from that focus as much on like testing and dialing in, diet so specifically and all these, specific supplement regimes, as to just being a lot more intuitive with being in nature and how I spend my time and what I'm eating. So that nature piece has just been really powerful. I've been hiking a ton and biking and going out in nature. Dr. Zach Bush teaches to something, it's been kind of a hashtag that's been famous, called Breathe Your Biome. So hashtag Breathe Your Biome, because most people know about their gut microbiome, and that is the bacteria and fungi and parasites and viruses that all kind of live within our gut that help our bodies to break down food and turn it into energy. But it's also like where most of our immune system lies, and having that balanced microbiome within our gut is vital to having good health. And there are many ways to expand our microbiome. It's not just by eating a wide variety of plants and different foods and fermented foods. It's also actually getting out in nature and breathing air in different environments, because from that expansion of getting that different microbiome in the air, that helps us internally to expand our microbiome. So in nature and expanding in that way has been really powerful. I've been foraging, learning about wild edibles, just having that nature experience has been really powerful, first off. Yeah.
And for me personally, because we've talked about this different times, but I do muscle testing to see when I need what, essentially, like in terms of supplements. I need a whole lot less when there's sunshine, period. And that's not like, I don't take vitamin D. I never need vitamin D almost ever. Just in general, when I'm detoxing, when I'm doing all sorts of things, I use a red light therapy in the house, especially for wintertime. Red light does not give you vitamin D. The sunlight does. So but my body requires almost no red light for detoxing or for healing of any sorts when there's sunshine. So it's like that alone is so important. Getting your feet on the ground just drops inflammation. But let's dive into foraging.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And along with that, with the sunshine, with the grounding, even this morning, I hadn't slept well last night, and I just got out first thing before we hopped on and just got my feet in, bare feet in the front yard, and just chilled out for a second. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, that just immediate kind of shift into your parasympathetic nervous system. It calms you down. It actually thins your blood, grounding in a healthy way, and just helps to reset circadian rhythm. So I'm hoping I'm going to do that, just kind of chill. Tonight I'm going to get some good sleep. I'm on day 3 of no caffeine too. So
nice. Oh, no wonder you didn't sleep well last night. Your liver's resetting.
Yeah, that could be a piece of it as well. And and we have things in our mind. And you said your wife didn't sleep well last night, so maybe there's some just
the I don't know. diurnal chart for liver is 1 to 3 a.m. So a lot of times when something's going on with me, I look at when I woke up in the night, and I see, oh, that's the organ that resets at that time, and I'm like, oh, that makes total sense, because my lungs have been feeling horrible or this or that, and it's really neat to line up Chinese medicine, bioenergetics, and all the different things. And I didn't realize that's what macrobiotics meant.
Yeah.
I love talking to you.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. So with the foraging, so that's been such a joyful thing, and it's really had a renaissance in this country as well. I think not only is it more medicinal to go out to learn to identify these different plants, just so many of them are in your yard, but also it's free food, right? How is that? Like I literally go out and just
Even better. It's
this was like $20 at Whole Foods. Like I got this, and it's medicinal, and it's really
free medicine.
Free medicine. What is that like? Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
there's actually a local. So there's a local guy now that he there's actually a bar, or it's it's a brewery in Gibsonia and in Millvale called Strange Roots, and there's a guy who works for him who started his own foraged vinegars. So he gets like spruce tips and all these different things and makes his own vinegars out of the beers that like he'll buy beers off this guy and turn them into vinegar. So like Pittsburgh's it's really a lot of cool things have happened in the last 10 years in Pittsburgh, but really in the last couple. So yeah, Pittsburgh's coming up, and people across the country and across the world are just starting to wake up to these new possibilities, and the wild herbs and the foraging piece has just really kind of taken off during this pandemic. So I think that's a really cool silver lining. And for all of you watching, I mean, if you are out into your go out into your backyard, and hopefully it's not sprayed. You definitely wouldn't want that. But there is such a rich array of beautiful plants that you can pick for a salad. I mean, everybody knows, just for a handful of examples before we move on, the dandelion, right? Dandelions everywhere. You can eat the flower, and more than anything, I love the leaves of the dandelion. Are so delicious. In a salad raw, or you can saute them, and really, I mean, you can blend them in a smoothie for that nice like bitter component of a dish, great in a soup. And so those are expensive to buy.
Super expensive, yeah.
And they grow like weeds. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, dandelion is a huge one. Purple dead nettle is also very common in this kind of northeastern area. Chickweed. Oh gosh, I mean, there's I have creeping Charlie all over my yard. That's called alehoof. Well, there's like 100 names for it, but alehoof, creeping Charlie. If you look up herbal remedies and herbal recipes, it's in there all over. And I'm doing a lot of homebrew now, and a lot of the homebrew from like 1400 and prior call for creeping Charlie and all these recipes. And I'm like, where am I going to find this stuff? It's going to be like $20 on Mountain Rose Herbs and stuff. And then I walk outside and I'm like, that sure looks like that picture, and it's everywhere. So
it's such provision to me, just like spiritually, like the abundance around that too. It's so good. So there's actually, I have like a great book. It's right here. It's if people are interested in checking it out, it's called Wild Remedies, and that's a really good one. I've been kind of as a 101 for
in the comments.
Yeah, in your yard, and then how to make medicinal foods and tinctures and salves out of all these things too. So if anybody's interested, it's a good resource.
That's cool. So I'll put that so everybody can see wild foraging or wild remedies for foraging. So tinctures. That's cool. My neighbor and we're always walking around, and I'm like, check that stuff out. He goes, Mike, that's a weed. And I went, nope, the grass is the weed. The rest of this stuff is for reasons.
It's medicine. I know. And now when I'm walking, like, you can't unsee it too. Once you learn to identify everywhere, you're like, look at that. It's very fun.
It happens when you take the blue pill.
Yeah. So true. No turning back. Yeah.
He's going to be mad. I got the pills wrong, probably.
Yeah. Red pill. Actually, it is the red pill. We've taken that red pill. Yeah. So
speaking of eating, something that's like some people are big fans of in the health world, some people are not. Intuitive eating, because I've really changed my perception on intuitive eating in the last couple of years. I don't really think intuitive eating is possible until you're really healthy, and until you get I call them the thorns in your feet. Once you get all the thorns out of your feet in terms of all the intolerances and allergies, stop eating those things. Because for me, when I eat anything that I'm intolerant to, it's even lately when I have healthy things that I'm intolerant to, it sends me on this like rampage of like, I have to eat everything. So it's like there's a hormone issue. It sends a hormone imbalance that just causes me to eat everything. So I've come to the conclusion that meat is about the only thing you can be intuitive with. If you crave meat, if you're craving steak every single day for five days, eat steak every day for 5 days. If all of a sudden you want salmon, then eat salmon. if you want chicken. If you are not hungry enough to eat meat, you're probably not hungry enough. But that said, as you start to heal your body, you can incorporate all these other food. And that's just like, even for people who are eating whatever, I just think that meat is like the one craving you can always trust, in terms of which one you should eat. But then with vegetables and like, cause I crave chocolate all the time. Well, that's not natural. Like, that's not a good thing. So what's your viewpoint on intuitive eating?
Yeah, it's such a dance, and it's been a journey, and it's a continual journey, I think, for both of us too, right? The more information we learn, the more, different worlds are open. And also sometimes there's a lot of deconstructing of all this information that we've gotten too, because it's excessive and it takes us away from that internal knowing of like what our body needs. Because just because some, quotes like smart health expert says you should eat raw almonds every day, like doesn't mean that's the right thing for you to do. Fill in the blank with any superfood, or even if it's like a turmeric or ginger or any, these things that we know have medicinal properties. It doesn't mean that it's always going to work for each of us all the time, or even any of the time.
Yeah.
So, I do agree that, trying to introduce intuitive eating when you're not in a healthy situation physically, mentally, spiritually, it just doesn't always work, because some people be like, well, I crave pizza, or I crave a Big Mac, or, no, that doesn't quite work. So you do need to, I think, establish a healthy baseline prior to kind of introducing these concepts. And I also think it's just so important to introduce the concept to people of intuitive eating, because I think so many people are especially people just starting who are in the health world, are just so confused by the mixed messaging, the just massive onslaught of opinions these days on the internet as to what's right. And are you, in the vegan crowd? Are you in the paleo crowd, the keto crowd, ancestral crowd? Like, fill in the blank. The labels have created such unnecessary division, and just it's gotten mean. It's gotten just so sided, which I think is so unnecessary. I think all of us in the health room can agree on more things than we can't, that we're supposed to eat, whole foods and move our bodies and breathe outside and focus on air and fresh air and sunlight and joyful living within our hearts. Like, those things are so much more important than like the exact elements of a diet. To me, like, everything feeds us. It's not just, what's on our plate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that a lot. And it always cracks me up, even in something as strict and severe as the carnivore community. It's like, well, you have to eat every single piece of the animal, or or there's gonna be consequences for you. And then there's somebody who's like, listen, guys, I have so many intolerances that bone marrow messes me up. I can't make lard. I have to eat solid fat, or else that messes me up. And they're just like, I eat a ribeye every single day to make my life easier, and that's all I do. But like, I don't eat all these organs. And me, I love it all. So I love the whole animal. I like, my wife and I go to farm markets and ask for the odd bits, and they usually go, what are you talking about? So, but yeah, I love the idea of someone being able to eat as many foods as possible and not be unhealthy and not get fat and not get inflamed. And yeah, I get really strict on my eating, because I have to. If I want to feel as good as I feel, I have to go super strict. And for me, that's intuitive eating too. So like, if any time you put something in your mouth and you get really gassy, next time you try it, if you get really gassy, we're not supposed to be farting like crazy, guys. We're humans. We're not gas factories. Farting is usually the sign of fermentation. So we don't want to. We're not fermenters either. We shouldn't be doing that. So if you have any issue after you eat a meal, you shouldn't. You should be able to stand straight up, not feel like you had a Thanksgiving meal every single time you ate. You shouldn't be bloated out there. And so that's part of being intuitive too, is like, oh, do I feel like junk after eating? So
right. Yeah. And it sounds so simple, right? Just to be like, does this food give me energy and make me feel good? Or like, does it bring me down and actually like make me want to lay on the couch? Like, it seems so basic, right? But so many of us have gotten so out of touch with our bodies and are just in the kitchen and putting something on our plate because it's like, oh, well, I'm supposed to eat this, or somebody said this is right, or this is on my protocol. And then they feel like crap. Like, let's rethink this a little bit too, and like go inside and get embodied as to what's working for you, and maybe it's not that protocol.
Just this week, after almost every time I ate, I was like ready to hit the floor tired. I'm talking like, I don't take naps, and I've been having 8-9 hours of sleep at night, and I've been struggling to stay awake after having a meal. Real weird for me. But I've been testing for tons and tons of digestive enzymes. So maybe I caught some kind of virus that my body was working on, or maybe my enzyme production in my gut just dropped down, and my body had to take every bit of energy it had to digest that meat and the other things that I was actually eating this week. So, because I was incorporating some new things, and it could just be it was really struggling to work on these new things. So,
and I found too, if we're too strict for too long, then there's a lot of kind of backpedaling that has to happen to diversify our microbiome again, to be able to digest a lot of different foods. So, and that is just something to really think about when we're extremely strict with diet, that all the different enzymes that are in microbes and bacteria that break down the different types of food in our microbiome are limited and kind of don't exist as much anymore, because if they're not breaking down those certain foods, and they're like, we don't need to be here. So we're really narrow with our diets, we're narrowing our microbiome. And so that's why like the diversity of the plants and different things that we eat is key to have that diverse microbiome.
You'll have to look into some of Paul Saladino and Dr. Saladino and Dr. Kevin Stock. And I don't know if Sean Baker's looked into that a whole lot, but Saladino's actually come up with some research where he's seeing that might not totally be true. Where it is for some people, and some people it's not. Obviously, we're all different. But Saladino has checked into that some on some of the studies that show that, and he's seeing some different things, which is really neat. And then Dr. Kevin Stock, he's been carnivore, which is a very strict carnivore, pretty much just steaks for about 4 years now, I think. And he did an experiment with all sorts of other things. All different types of carb sources and stuff like potatoes and a few other things, and didn't have a single problem with any of them. He's a very healthy guy, though. I don't think he even had pre-existing conditions really before he went into carnivore. He just feels best on it. It's easy and minimalist. So, but yeah, that's always the gut health stuff, the microbiome things. That's like a big frontier we have no clue of, right? And like we start thinking we know, and then like right now, I'm just like, yeah, Saladino's saying something different. Whether it's true or not, it supports his agenda. Just like Dr. Ruscio says stuff, it supports his agenda, and Dr. Gundry says stuff, it supports his agenda. All these things are true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can be confusing, and that's why I just think too, like what you said, we are just scratching the surface with microbiome, and just with health in general, we're still figuring it out. We think
it's a wild frontier,
and that's why it has to be so personal. Like what works for you, Mike, might be very different from what works for me versus our family members and friends, and so it's just not a one size fits all. Yes, we can agree on the principles that processed food is crap, refined sugar is crap, these toxic oils, vegetable oils and things like that are not helpful. Otherwise, there's a lot of room for discussion.
Yeah. And that's the fun part. Like we don't even know, we know all these vitamins. It's very likely like the depths of the ocean where we know about 2% of what's there. We have no idea if like when we're pulling out these little, like just vitamin C out of the rose hip instead of using the whole thing, the whole rose hip, or just you name it, just pulling astaxanthin out of salmon. Is that salmon? Maybe.
Krill, I think they get astaxanthin. Yeah. Maybe in sockeye salmon, yeah. Yeah,
pulling these little tiny nutrients out of all these foods that have probably 1,000 times what we know are in them. We don't know how these things work together, and and I always crack up. It's like I'm so certain of this, and then I'm humbled every time.
Yep. Things God has a way of humbling us, right?
Yeah. God is good. And speaking of God, I have him as number one on our list to talk about. So I know in your health practice, just like in mine, I have zero problem praying for somebody in the moment if I need to. And that's even at my doctor's office that I work for. I'll ask them if it's okay with them. But if not, I'm still praying for them in my head. So it doesn't matter.
Whether you like it or not, you're getting prayed for.
Too bad. So how do you incorporate God and faith into your work, into your, I know you've been so blessed, and this is probably partially planned on your part, but God has a way of always doing this. You've worked for a lot of Christians, and that's super cool. Dr. Pompa he's certified in working in pastoral medicine. I don't even know that. Like, what is that?
Yeah, good question. It's an association for, I believe, Christian practitioners. Honestly,
It's super cool.
I haven't looked into that for a while, but you can practice through that organization. I don't know. I know there's some. I'm not sure. Honestly, I haven't looked at it for a long time.
Dr. Bush isn't scared of God. He's not scared of saying anything about God either, and I love that. So.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and we definitely want to be aligned with our tribe spiritually. And yeah, for me personally, I don't think that you can separate the spiritual component of healing from the physical and the mental component. We could be eating, this beautiful, healthy diet and be doing even just a lot of mindset work and things, but if we don't kind of tap into that spiritual connection and see it as the bigger picture and kind of have that, spiritual recognition in our life, I don't think you get the results with healing that you do if it's just way more generic and just focused on food and maybe mindset things. That spiritual component is key to results. I think, we're spiritual beings living this human experience. And when we can tap into to the spiritual layer of how it all works, things can make a lot more sense, or there can at least be a lot more peace in what's going on. I find that just with anything with my own spiritual practice, even during the challenges of, this pandemic and life in general, that is what brings me the deepest peace in my life when I don't have the answers. So I do find it is a vital conversation to be incorporated into coaching and to get results in life.
My friend Lori says it best right here. She says God should be spoken about as easy as saying, "Hey, what's for dinner?" So
I love that. Just ease around. So just having those casual conversations and always being tapped in. I don't know if you've ever read the book, Practicing the Presence of God by Brother, I'm blanking out on his name right now. It's also probably the lack of sleep. Brother Francis, maybe. He was a Franciscan monk, and he just wrote this beautiful book on practicing the presence of God. And he just lived in this monastery, and he was just doing his thing for decades. And he wrote this book on how he communed with God like 24/7. He'd be washing the dishes and just, "Thank you, God," and just, or, "Hey, God, what's up?" And, sweeping the floor out in the forest. Like, he'd see God in everything and in everyone. And it was just, he was living it. And it was just like a beautiful expression.
Something that I love, and I think you and I have talked about this before, the amount of things that I learned from atheists that are biblical. So with the whole meditation practice, I can't remember his name, something Harris.
Sam Harris.
Yeah, Sam Harris, big time atheist. If there's multiple Sam Harris, I don't want to offend the wrong Sam Harris. No, I don't want to offend anybody. He wouldn't be offended by calling him an atheist. He is. But I'm sure there's a Sam Harris that's not. I apologize to you. I've learned so many things from hearing him on Tim Ferriss and other podcasts. But all these guys talk about gratitude. And like, gratitude is, literally, if you pray, part of praying as a Christian is gratitude. And there are so many studies that show how terrific gratitude is for your life. Just unbelievable gratitude. And even just eating. You can eat something that's very unhealthy for you. And if you have gratitude while you're eating it, and you're grateful while you're eating it and taking your time and enjoying it, it can be more healthy for you than if you're stressed out over eating the most perfect, healthy meal for you, because the way your body works. Your body, God has designed us to work better in prayer. Literally. Like, what's that tell us? Our bodies work best in prayer. And for those who don't believe in God, our bodies work best when we mimic the state we are in prayer. So, and like, prayer is meditation. We are just thinking through our thoughts of love and what we need, what we don't need, what we're grateful for. We're thinking through all these thoughts. We're getting in a zone where we can kind of control our thoughts, just like meditation allows you. and but we're doing it all in the name of God. And like all this stuff is just, I mean, just so many times in my life, an atheist reteaches me what the Bible already told me, and I just go, dum. What do you like? Come on, man. So
yeah, we can learn from everyone. Everyone in our life is a teacher if we see it that way. So, and I love this. I heard this or read this quote a while ago. I think it's so beautiful. If you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all.
Oh,
I love that. And I think it's so powerful as just what kind of eyes we look at the world with, and how everyone, and we can see beauty and God and love in all beings if we fix our eyes on that.
Because let's be honest, we can see evil in everything too. So I've had this recently with some of the Dr. Bradley Nelson energy stuff that we do now. People think, if it's energy, it must be evil. So that's like saying, God created energy. So that's like saying, okay, someone was drowned in water one time, so now all water is evil. What? Like, really? Hitler breathed air, so now all air is evil because it fueled Hitler. What?
Right.
Yeah, like that's real crazy.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's just like living and thinking from like it's fear-based thinking versus faith-based thinking.
Yeah.
Or coming from a place of fear versus a place of love.
Yeah. Yeah, and you always have to be careful, no matter what you do, that you're doing it in the name of God and with pure love and joy, always being backed by Jesus Christ. Like that is very important. And if at any time you come across something and you're like, whoa, this does not feel right, stop, figure out what you're doing, and make sure that it is in line with God, and make sure He's not telling you, hey, back off of this thing. So, and that comes
with intuition, right? And having that intuitive tapping in and letting things be spirit led, and just like knowing what, knowing that for you, that's right.
Yeah. And it's hard to differentiate between fear and intuition sometimes, like a stop because of fear or a stop because of an intuition. Those are hard to differentiate. So, but that's where you just really got to spend time in prayer and maybe dwell on it and meditate on it.
Right. And being still and know, right. And I think that that's the beauty of this, like Zoom, reconnecting with the pandemic too. It is this opportunity to slow down and kind of rethink everything in our lives. Is this the path that I want to be going on? Are these the people I want to be spending time with? Is this the job I want to be working? Is this, how I want to be eating and taking care of myself? How do I want to show up in the world? It's a beautiful time to release that fear, tap in our intuition, and think is this the right thing for me to do right now? It's slowing down. It's awesome.
What a great point to make, and what a great way to bring this all full circle for because I know you have to get going. You are like so few others where you are busier than ever in this time.
I know people are like bored, not doing anything during the pandemic. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's so much going on. But I have some time, so I mean, we're good either. So
all these people are doing like Udemy and all these different online courses. And I'm like, come on, I want this. but right now, what a perfect time that God gave all of us to decide, okay, I'm just happier than I've ever been. Like right now, I'm saying this as a statement. I am happier than I've ever been. I would love to see my friends a little more. And thankfully, because we have such short memories as humans, I have started to see my friends more. And we are taking the statistics and the numbers, and we're taking and making our own decisions on these things. And instead of just listening to other people give us answers. So if you are at home and if you're able to work from home because of this, but you never could before, and your job is like people at your job are saying, as soon as this is done, we're going back to work, no matter what, you're at the office, but you are happier than you've ever been working from home. You got your answer. Find a job you can work from home, whatever it takes. If you love being able to go out and water your garden in the middle of taking calls for work, make it happen. So this is your time to make this choice happen, because guess what? There's going to be about 100 times more companies working from home now than there were prior to this. God is resetting the planet in such a terrific way, and lower pollution, my goodness, you name it, lower bad. And what a blessing we have in this whole Corona life. What a blessing. So, what do you think on that? I mean, you said the same thing pretty much.
Yeah, it's all in how we perceive it, right? And I think so much of life is what we're focusing on. Like, yes, there's like really challenging things happening in the world and a lot of darkness and a lot of just really heavy stuff happening. And that's why I don't own a TV. I watch very selective news, and I'm very selective on my sources because I don't want that to pollute my mind. Because I wake up, I'm hearing the birds chirping, I'm drinking my green juice, like I'm just, able to focus on all of these incredible blessings right now versus the challenges. And I know we're all in different situations, and I'm definitely not minimizing the struggles that many people are going through right now. At the same time, I do think it is what we focus on, because everyone who's watching this, you have technology, you have a computer, like you have access to unlimited information at your fingertips, which many people throughout the world don't have access to. So there is a blessing, even if you're, sitting watching this thinking, oh, that's easy for you to say. Well, there's still things that we can focus on. You're alive, you're breathing, you have the cognitive ability to process this information that you're seeing.
Yeah.
So it's all in focus on. And yes, and this pandemic has been a blessing because I've chosen to see it as that, as a time to slow down and reset, as a time to learn more. I've been reading, voraciously, and just being in nature, getting my, body back on track, and just like moving as much as possible, and enjoying time with, selective friends, like responsibly, but still like hang out with people and not being in fear. Cooking a ton, and just like, this is the perfect time too. Like, there's no excuse to not explore recipes, to try some healthy food, and just kind of being more in tune with the natural cycles. Like, it's awesome. Yeah. So if we focus on that versus, watching the news all the time, like, you're going to get different results out of this time period.
Yeah. And that could be why I'm like so over this already, because I don't watch the news. I put on the radio every once in a while. I'll listen to some talk radio here and there, but for the most part, I'm just listening to podcasts that are health related and things, and or books on audio. And I listen to these health podcasts, and people are very serious about keeping healthy during this time. But then I hear like all the stats and all the numbers, and I think, oh, so it kind of, a friend of mine reminded me, like, we were just supposed to flatten the curve. What happened to that? Where did the whole just flatten the curve thing go? Now it's like, we have to destroy this virus. No one ever said that about the flu. Or any other thing. We're supposed to flatten the curve. And I think, sadly, people have taken advantage of the situation in whatever they're trying to push here. I don't know yet, but I'm okay with it, because God's in control. And like, yeah, I get stressed out sometimes. Yeah, I think about it way too hard. And but I don't care anymore. I care when it's time. When someone's, trying to force something on me, I care then. And I fight tooth and nail in those times. I don't take anything like that without looking into it. So, but yeah, get off the news. If you're on Facebook, make it to be to like go on your, like, I have a couple hobby groups that I'm in for homebrew. So I go on Facebook for my homebrew groups to learn what I need to do for if this happens or that happens, and I get off. I go on to say hi to my friends that have chimed in, like Kelly and Lorianne, and I respond to them, and then I jump off. I'm not on social media anymore, and I feel really bad because all my friends like you that I love to follow and see what you're doing, and even Kelly that she visited the other day around the campfire, I don't follow anybody's feeds anymore for the most part. So I miss my friends, but man, my life is so much better and stress-free. I miss them. I'll call them up and have them come hang out from 6 foot away. So
there you go. Well, it's cost benefit analysis, right? And yes, you miss people, but you can find other ways to interact. And if it's bringing so much more peace and joy to your life to disconnect from social media more intentionally, that's a beautiful thing. And I like the word that's just coming up to me with what you've been speaking about is intentionality. So being intentional with whatever we do and how we spend our time, whether that's being intentional with social media, whether it's setting a timer for, okay, I'm just going to do it for 30 minutes today, and being intentional with who we're spending time with, what we're cooking, how we're moving. Like, that intentionality piece is so key to leveraging this time. Yeah. Otherwise, as we know, the days get away from us if we're not being intentional with how we're spending them and having that awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, if your intention in life is to have less stress, but all you do is scroll all day long, like crossing the eyes, scrolling. Or if you're watching news for more than like 10 minutes a day, you're not doing what you say your intention is. If you're trying to be stress-free, you don't go on those places. If you're trying to be stress-free, like you said, you might cut people out of your lives. And that's another thing that I think will be terrific when people start hanging out with their friends again and they're like, oh, I actually didn't miss these people. Some of them, obviously not all of them.
Yeah, interesting point.
Yeah, when you start hanging out with, because for years, my whole life, there's been people that I'm like I meet somebody's friends and I'm like, why do you guys let them act that way? And they're like, oh, that's just so-and-so. That's how they've always been. And I'm like, no, that's how you've always let them be. Like, if you don't want them in your life, get out of their life. If they finally see that they're doing something that's not good for a friendship, they'll stop, or they'll just have different friendships. And we've made that cut a lot of times in our life over the years. And not all of them are like real bad. It's just, we don't like drama. And some of them are just a little bit of drama, and it's still too much for us. So.
Right. Yeah. Life is so precious. Like our time on earth, whether we live to be 100 years old, like my grandmas are 96 and 94, like it's still short. So we do need to be so intentional with who we're spending time with, because that has a massive effect on our life. So yeah, this pandemic time, it's very interesting with like kind of everybody coming in to, to kind of like detox relationships that maybe aren't serving.
And I would love to hang with your grandmas, because I guarantee they are both the sweetest people in the world and the most blunt.
They are pretty rad. My grandma, if you're watching, my one grandma's on Facebook too. So maybe
terrific.
Yeah, 96, still on the book. Yeah. There's
Grandma, friend me.
Cool.
I want That is so cool. Meredith, let me show everybody kind of where they can find you. Because I know you are so gracious with your time, and I really appreciate it. So this is Meredith's Facebook, her health coaching Facebook page. And Health Coach Meredith is pretty much, if you type that in, you're going to find her and like one other person. So that's the easiest way to find you. And
on Instagram, it's at Health Coach Meredith is my handle. So
yeah, you have so many terrific recipes and things on your website too. But your Instagram page, my goodness, it's just always amazing.
Thank you. It's fun. Unlike you, I've probably still been scrolling and interacting on social media maybe a little more than I should. So I'm just taking a page out of your book, and maybe even this weekend I'll just take a little break. So thank you, Mike, for that inspiration. It's fun for me, but it's still good to back off. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard, right? Like, because it is part of our business. So I've found with what I'm doing here, this is how I've found my way to get on social media without being on social media, because I'm just chatting with friends, and it takes me like an hour to set everything up and to finalize it after I'm done, and that's it. So you got to find in business your own thing. What is this?
Yeah, so that was some local tempeh from a kind of a commune down here. It's called Twin Oaks. They make non-GMO tempeh like in their tubs. Like it is so legit, best tempeh ever. And I got it on. It was like a keto loaf. It's an almond flour loaf made from a local bakery, Moon Maiden Bakery. Her stuff's amazing. And then I just bunch of veggies, kimchi from the market too. It was a very local meal. I think cilantro from the market, and it was very good.
I'm not a soy fan. I actually have a soy allergy. I would eat that.
Yeah, brother, it was good. It was good. It might be worth it.
My absolute favorite on this planet, my favorite vegetable ever made, is seaweed snacks.
I love me some seaweed.
Sushi nori. And is that guacamole?
No, that was some foraged pesto I made from wild mustard greens, and that's the mustard green flower. The whole plant is edible. You've probably seen them out there. They're just those yellow flowers. They are actually like super pervasive, and they're everywhere. They're totally edible. You can chop up the roots and eat the flowers, and the leaves I turn into pesto.
That's awesome. You and Ben Greenfield and your pestos, huh?
I love pestos. Well, anytime, because I'm very into I love the wild plants, and just there's green leaves everywhere, and it's the easiest thing just to blend them up and turn them into pesto, and then it just makes everything taste very delicious. I love sauces. I'm a sauce gal.
Yeah. Now, so everybody knows you should not just grab, if you don't know how to forage, you should not just grab any green leaf.
Yep. Disclaimer: IDing is key.
Green things are poisonous.
I gotta redo that. It's funny you read my bio. I was like, oh man, that is so old. I was like, I should have updated that. But
yeah,
well.
and I meant to see if it was okay before I did it, and I didn't. I forgot to do that. So
it's all good. It's all good. I mean, it's not like totally not true, but it's like definitely old school. So
yeah,
all good.
And so, like right here, you have terrific recipes, all sorts of things. Man.
Nice. Oh man! Yeah, hang out on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
Check it out, guys. I'd love to meet your tribe.
The no churn nice creams. So have I ever told you about how I make ice cream out of bone broth ice cubes?
Oh, okay. All right. So
yeah.
And what are the other ingredients?
So I would replace the bananas with bone broth, and I would do, maybe cocoa powder, some nut butter, maybe collagen if you can handle collagen, or gelatin sometimes if you want it to maybe get real gummy or gummy-ish, depending on how much you put in. Because oddly enough, I can't do collagen right now because of the enzymatic processes. I can do gelatin. I don't know where that happened from, but I've never quite felt awesome from collagen. So I'm really interested if that's a common thing now. But yeah, I essentially just put it all in my blend tech, and a lot of times I'll do a hard-boiled egg and a raw egg as well, one or the other or both. And
in the ice cream. Yeah,
and it makes it pudding.
How do you sweeten it?
I'll use for a while I would use stevia and things, but now I'm really getting back into honey. Because honey
I love raw honey. Yeah, so good.
I'm doing a lot of honey and stuff now, versus the. Let me get out over here. I'm doing honey versus the alternative sweeteners, the keto sweeteners, because I'm not worried about being keto right now. I eat in a way that a tablespoon of honey a day is not gonna knock me out of ketosis most times. But what's gonna knock me out of ketosis is like the last 3 weeks I haven't worked out. Because my body's been healing from things, and then, eating foods that cause inflammation in me, that knocks me out of ketosis as well. So, yeah. So
I could even measuring all of that and just like have been way more intuitive. But I think once you come to that place of metabolic flexibility, like I'll be in ketosis and like not even mean to at all. And the fastest way to get into ketosis is fasting, as we know, just like drinking water and, like letting your body have that reset for a while. But I'm a big believer in the medicinal benefits of raw honey too.
Yeah.
It's not sugar, like it is medicine. And when you have it from a local source, it can be so powerful.
That's the key too, is the local source. Because here's the thing, if you got honey from the US, it has pesticides in it. There's no way around it.
And high fructose corn syrup and the cheap ones, like it's got to be raw and local. Yeah. I will muscle test a honey that's just from down the street versus a honey that's only another 10 miles away. And the one down the street always comes up better for me, but better than all of them is Manuka honey. My body always wants Manuka honey over anything else. So that's good. My favorite sourwood, if you've ever had that type of honey, it literally tastes like butter. It is just like the most buttery honey. It is banging. Yeah. I highly recommend if you can find some sourwood.
Meadow foam is supposed to taste like marshmallow, and it's very expensive. But I make mead now. So I'm always interested in sourwood. I would love to have a buttery honey. Star thistle, I think it's called, is supposed to be very cool, but people don't consider like pumpkin flower honey or carrot blossom honey. Avocado blossom.
Yeah, I've tried that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like kind of like molasses, or like buckwheat honey is very dark and earthy and minerally. And so is, I guess, avocado honey is even more so. So I love that. But buckwheat honey, for some people, tastes like, the best way to say it is a barn floor. Because it tastes kind of like horse pee a little bit, but there's so much caramely sweetness. It's more on the nose, and then this sweetness and the taste is in your mouth of caramely and fruity, but that nose is hard for people to get over.
Oh, I want a spoonful of that right now. That sounds
really good.
Because I kinds of honeys, so tasty.
I love horses and I love a farm. So like when you're eating something sweet, but you smell the farm around you, you're like, yeah.
What's not to like? It transports you.
So before you get off, does anybody have any questions Meredith. I forgot your name for a second. What the heck's my problem?
Who am I interviewing right now?
Does anybody have questions for Meredith before we jump off here? Because she is so much fun to talk with. And while we're waiting for questions, Lorianne said, yeah, she's been able to get on her bike a lot, clean out cupboards, and her and her husband own a cleaning business and they do like not housework. What the heck's my brain stopped. My goodness. They'll do handyman service. So cleaning and handyman. And they're in a referral group with me. She's terrific. And then my friend Kelly Troop. Yeah, Lorianne's great. And my friend Kelly Troop is a health coach out of Erie, PA. Also a primal coach. She's very much like us. She knows she knocks me out of the park with knowledge. So she's just great. And my buddy Ed Green's watching too. He's actually a client that became a friend, a patient at the office that became a good friend. So he's a cool guy. So
awesome. Well, thanks for joining, guys. Yeah, this is a great chat.
Yeah. So and then Nancy McCarthy's watching too. So yeah, so I'm always grateful people watching and tuning in, and I'm always happy to share my friends. Like I love we just chatted today, and this is what I love to do. So this was like my first very much just a chat. We had like a list of things in case we didn't know what to talk about, and perfect.
We'll always find things to talk about, Mike. I've never hung out with you where we didn't talk for a while, so that was not going to be an issue.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I guess no one has any questions, so what we're going to do is jump off, and thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for hanging out with us today, and especially so early. This was fun. And Meredith, hang out for a second as I end the broadcast here, but have a great day.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.